Call to order the regular City Commission meeting for Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. Let the record show we are absent one commissioner, Commissioner Soboluk. First item up this evening is the pledge, and we will go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. First item up is order of business. Mr. Dossinger, are there any changes to the order of business?
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the Commission. There is no change to the order of business this evening.
Thank you. Any questions on the order of business? Not, I look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Motion to approve the order of business
Second.
with second. Any further discussion on the order? All in favor of the order of business as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Move on to consent agenda. Commissioners, are there any items on the consent agenda that you wish to discuss? Not, I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Moving to administration and finance this evening. First item is we have a couple of proclamations that I will proceed with. The first one up is Building Safety Month. I don't see anybody from, they didn't want to make any comments from, any comments on building safety? Okay.
I guess Building Safety Month is something that's been historically done in the city of Dickinson. It's a national acknowledgement of building safety throughout the country, and look forward to the presentation.
Thank you. I'll go ahead into this proclamation. Building Safety Month proclamation for May of 2023. Whereas the City of Dickinson is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential roles our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play, both in everyday life and when disasters strike. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal officials who are the experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our communities, largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas it starts with you, the theme for Building Safety Month 2023 encourages us all to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community. and to acknowledge the essential services provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, I, Scott Decker, President of the City Commission of the City of Dickinson, North Dakota, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2023 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage our citizens to join us as we participate in the Building Safety Month activities. And I would look for a motion on this proclamation.
Mr. President, move to approve.
A motion to approve
Second.
in a second. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
And we have a second proclamation, and this is for Drinking Water Week in 2023. And we have some representatives, and she is coming in the door as I speak. Just keep coming, Jen. Just about to start the proclamation. So we have Jen from Southwest Authority wants to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. Apologize for my late arrival, or maybe I'm just on time. So American Water Works Association has been celebrating Drinking Water Week and promoting safe drinking water for more than 40 years. Southwest Water Authority and the Pipeline Project have been involved in that for around 30 years now, a little bit more. We've been in business. Drinking Water Week is a celebration of a healthy community, a vibrant economy, a reliable source of quality water for public health and hygiene. Oh, excuse me. Quality of life and the quality of life that we enjoy here in Dickinson and all of Southwest North Dakota. So Southwest Water Authority just wants to thank each and every one of you for the collaboration and the teamwork that we put forth to treat and deliver the quality drinking water that we all enjoy. And I appreciate the support and the proclamation for Drinking Water Week this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll proceed with the proclamation as Drinking Water Week 2023. Whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas water from Southwest Pipeline Project and the Southwest Water Authority delivers public health protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy. And whereas any measure of a successful society, low mortality rates, economic growth and diversity, productivity, and public safety are in some way related to access to safe water. And whereas Southwest Water Authority and the Southwest Pipeline Project play a critical part in consumers' health, hygiene, and hydration, and public awareness of the importance of safe tap water is essential to supporting and sustaining this resource. Whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which future generations depend. And whereas each citizen of our city and all of Southwest North Dakota is called upon to help sustain our water resources by educating themselves about their drinking water, by practicing water conservation, and getting involved in local efforts to protect our water sources from pollution. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by the virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Dickinson, I do hereby proclaim May 7th through the 13th, 2023 as Drinking Water Week. And I would look for a motion on this proclamation.
So moved.
A motion to approve.
Second.
The second, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Before I step down, I also would just like to introduce the chairman of our board for Southwest Water Authority. Mr. James Oderman is also in the audience. He's been with our organization for about 26 years now.
We won't hold it against you. Yeah.
Well, that is a long time, Jim. I did not realize you had been serving in that capacity that long. So thank you so much for your service. So, all right, our next item up, we have a KLJ task order, and this will be handled by, and this is for grant writing services. This will be handled by Deputy City Administrator Carlson.
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. Before you is the KLJ task order for grant writing services. This task order was generated through an RFP that went out in late fall of 2022. The award of the services did not come into fruition until the city team of community development, engineering, public works, finance, and IT got together and developed the CIP editor, which is a module within the timekeeping system that consolidated all our capital projects. With this information, city wanted to have a manageable product to supply KLJ with all the information they needed to have for planning and programming the review. So now that this is in this process has been going on, we would ask that you would approve the KLJ task order for the grant writing services so we can go forward with this.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlson. Any questions, commissioners? I think this is part 2 of our grant writing team.
Correct.
We have another individual that's on. They work in a different capacity on different grants.
Right, that one is with the FEMA
Right.
type.
So try to maximize our ability to seek some of this grant money that's out there. So any other questions or comments for staff or the public? And this is task order number 2204-01360-1. There are no more questions. I would look
Mr.
for.
President, I do have a quick question.
Okay.
Well, hopefully it's quick. Mrs. Carlson, do we have like a list of needs that have been developed for that tier 1 for researching of grants?
We did not develop projects for the tiers. That came through KLJ this last meeting that we had with them. We presented what we have in our CIP, that's a construction and project process for projects in capital, that we have, like, I don't know, 199 projects that we've talked about, but then now we're prioritizing them. And then what we'll do is bring some of these projects to KLJ, and they'll tell us where they can do some of these. So if it's tier 1 and we can do the work, then we're going to do the work. If it's more elaborate and then they can do that, then we'll work with them. That'll be a tier 2.
Okay.
But if they really need to get into it, it's a federal one, and they can really go after something like our Patterson Lake or whatever it is, that would be tier 3. So that's what they're going to do, is look at our projects now that we have prioritized, and then we're gonna come back to commission during budget and say, okay, out of these 10, here's what we can do for grants, here's what we can do for funding, and where does the commission wish to go?
Okay, great.
Does that
Thank
help you?
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
I'd move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman. Second by Commissioner Frederick.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions for staff? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Excuse me, Mr. President. Southwest Water would like to have a picture with you in the proclamation.
Sure thing. Well, not the whole commission, right? You want the whole commission, right? Sure. Come on up. I think we can all gather somewhere here and. Yeah, I think they can. You guys just want to stand behind us? Yeah. So.
I'll stand right by this guy to make sure he's.
Okay, keep them in line.
Keep them in line, please.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. There you go.
Whoops, sorry, John.
We gotta do it again, huh?
I won't run you over this time, John.
We'll move into HR. First item up, we have some job descriptions. Mrs. Dominic?
Thank you, President Decker, Commissioners. For you tonight, we are going to ask for approval for some of our buildings and grounds job descriptions. These were all approved with the 2023 budget process. The first one is the buildings and grounds operator position. This position is really just a title change from facility operator to buildings and grounds operator. It also is a grade change from grade 11 to grade 12. I don't know if you want me to do the whole presentation and then make a motion on each job description, or go at.
Yeah, go ahead and do all of them, and then we'll go through.
Okay, the next one is the buildings and grounds operator 2. This position is a new position. It is achievable. This one does require a high school diploma or GED for education and 3 years experience in a public works operator position. There's all types of special requirements, as with all of the achievable positions. We're requiring a valid North Dakota Class B CDL with automatic transmission and air brakes within 6 months of hire. The specialized equipment training, as outlined on the Operator 2 classification request form. Vector control certification, commercial pesticide applicator certification, APWA, facility and ground certification, the ICS 1, 2, and 700, lift truck, aerial lift certification, CPR first aid, AED, and the defensive driving course. This position is placed in grade 13, is non-exempt. And then this, again, is the achievable components that I just outlined. Once an operator has achieved all of those certifications and the 3 years of employment as an operator in public works, they would complete the achievable form and fill everything out, send it to their supervisor, who would sign off, and then the solid waste manager would sign off, and the public works director as well. The next position is the buildings and grounds foreman. This position was also approved in the 2023 budget. It is a title change from the facility operator, senior facility operator, to buildings and grounds foreman. It is a title, our grade change from grade 13 to grade 14. And then we have the buildings and grounds supervisor. This title we had changed a while ago, so it's a grade change from grade 15 to grade 16. And then I will talk about the Deputy Public Works Director. That is the last one on this position, on this agenda. This is a new position that we're asking for approval on with the plan of succession planning for the Public Works Department. As you know, it's been rather difficult for us to fill and keep filled the street and fleet operator position. We've had several people in that role over the years and have not been able to keep that position filled. And our street department operators as well. So with the plan of succession, Public Works Director came up with a plan of creating a Deputy Public Works Director to train underneath him and to assist him with all of the strategic planning, the budgeting, implementing and directing of the Public Works programs in all of the areas of solid waste collection, disposal, recycling, water distribution, wastewater collection, stormwater, wastewater treatment, reuse water infrastructure, street and fleet, buildings and grounds, cemeteries, and forestry. So this position would fall in grade 20. Same grade level as the deputy fire chief and the deputy police chief. And it would be an exempt position. And to give you a little perspective, it is one grade higher than where the public works managers are right now, the solid waste manager and the street fleet manager and the utilities manager, so it'd be one grade higher. And city staff recommends approval for all of these job descriptions. If you have any questions, Mr. Zuroff is in the audience to help out with that as well, and I would stand for any questions.
President Decker, if I may, please.
Sure, Mr.
To give you some background, as Public Works Director Zurhoff has indicated that he is potentially planning on retiring by May of next year. I am seeking approval of the job description at this time, and I am working with the Public Works Director Zurhoff on what's the best plan of action moving forward is for the management and leadership at the Public Works Department. Currently, there are 3 manager-level positions at Public Works. You have the solid waste position, which is held by Aaron Prouse, the water utility manager position, which is held by Dwayne Zastapol, and the street and fleet manager position. This position has been vacant for quite a while and has been difficult to fill. I'm looking at moving forward with a plan to have a public works director position, a deputy public works director position, and 2 managers. I am still evaluating this plan to make sure that this is the best direction moving forward. If I decide to pull the trigger on it, I will then ask the commission to move forward with it, utilizing the approved job description. At this time, I'm seeking for the approval of the job description. If I plan on moving forward with that plan, I would then come forward to the commission and ask for instituting that assistant public works director position or deputy public works director position.
Thank you, Mr. Dossinger. So the 2 managers that they plan on maintaining would be the water and basically right now you can't fill street and fleet, right? So
Correct.
you'd
Good
maintain.
Good evening, President Decker. Right now, we can't fill the street and fleet manager position. Previously, we had the street fleet manager under operations, if you remember, as operations director, and that position was in charge of street fleet and buildings and grounds and forestry. At one time, that was the goal we were going, and then we just had a street and fleet manager. That didn't work, so right now, utilities manager is Dwayne Zestapol. I would like to keep that. Solid waste manager and the street fleet or operations manager, that is what I think we need to weigh after we fill this position, or when we can fill this position. Maybe have 2 managers. Right now, the solid waste manager, for example, is doing buildings and grounds, forestry, solid waste, and assisting with street and fleet. So we've got to do something different. And I think this is the way to go, at least in that direction, since we can't fill that position as a manager. I think in this look or organization, we would have the director, deputy director, and 2 managers.
Okay.
I used to think we used to have a set hierarchy, but this day and age with so many vacant positions, we got to be flexible and try to do what we can to meet all the requirements and get the jobs done. So.
All right. Any other questions, commissioners?
Mr. Zuroff, this deputy position, I'm hoping that was like a typo or something like that, and you plan on retiring in like May of 2026. But
No, God, no. It's too long.
Do you feel like this would position that individual to be in a good mentorship position with you, to be able to kind of download the things that you know and your expertise to where they might be positioned maybe potentially better than they would be today, to potentially succeed you in that position?
I think definitely. I mean, Public Works is so broad, that I think with the deputy, you can get involved in multiple areas of Public Works, and there's a lot of things that continue to change and develop differently in Public Works, technology, other things, but hopefully I would love to be able to train that individual, or whatever knowledge I have left upstairs, I would be glad to give that. And I guess that's what I'd look at too, is trying to educate the best I can in past practices, new practices, and just Public Works operation and maintenance that I found successful, and I think it's kind of following standard practices of Public Works.
The one thing that I'll reiterate, even though we do this as succession, those positions, like Mr. Zuroff's position, would be treated no differently than we treated the fire chief position or the police chief position.
Absolutely.
It would be open for everybody to apply for it, and the best person eventually gets selected to hold that position. So the one thing I look back, even if the deputy would apply and was not successful, and say we selected an outside source, at least you have that institutional knowledge passed on by Mr. Zuroff to this individual, so that that operations, we don't interfere with normal day-to-day operations while that process is going on.
And I think that's
So,
correct. If this individual, or the deputy wouldn't get the Public Works, it would sure be a big help for the new Public Works director coming in.
Yeah, for sure.
And moving forward. Exactly.
So would this be an internal only, or is this?
I think that's a discussion with Public Works Director and the CA to make that determination. I don't know if that has been decided yet.
Commissioner Frederick, we're still having discussions and looking forward to the best direction moving forward with that.
And then just prefer current or past possession of these certifications? Wouldn't you just, aren't they required to have those certifications, or? I'm not sure I understand past possession.
Well, in some of that I put in there. So, for example, different classes of water or wastewater operation certification in plants or distribution. It depends on what state you're in or where you're at. Normally, to have the highest level of, say, water or wastewater distribution, you have to be on site. You have to be the person running the plant, for example. So if you're, like myself, Public Works Director or whatever else, I can't be the operator of the plant. But if you were an operator of the plant or an operator at any level previously or in another state, that gives you a lot of that experience needed for a Public Works Director, if that helps. Same with manager of landfill operations. We don't require that. It's not required in North Dakota. But to me, if you were a past MOLO or technical certification, that gives you that experience.
Okay.
Right. Any other questions, commissioners? Thank you, Mrs. Zuroff. Okay, we'll go through these one at a time. The first one up would be the operator position. And that is our base operator that we have now.
Correct.
Right. So I'd look for a motion if there are no further questions on that job description.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bear,
Second.
second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. For the Operator 2 position, are there any further questions for staff? If not, I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Building and Grounds Foreman, are there any further questions on that job description? Not, I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Building and Grounds Supervisor, any further questions or discussion on this position? Not, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bear,
Second.
second by Commissioner Oderman. And a further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. The last position, Public Works Assistant Director. I think I got that correctly, or Deputy Public Works, right? That's what we're calling it. Deputy Public Works Director. There are any further questions for city staff? As indicated, Mr. Dossinger says, right now he's just seeking approval. It does not mean we'll be advertising or putting this job forward. He needs to work with Mr. Zuroff further on the scope of this, so.
I'll move to approve.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Dominic. It is 5 o'clock, so we'll move into the public hearing and public comments part. The first public hearing we have is by the Southwest Narcotics Task Force. They're giving us an update, and that'll be Police Chief Ciani.
President Decker, Commissioners, I'd like to introduce BCI Special Agent Chris Kimmerly. He oversees the Southwest Narcotics Task Force. Give you some information on some of their activities over the past few years and some of the local trends related to narcotics. So just introduction, turn it over to him from here.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. Like you said, my name is Chris Kimmerly. I'm with North Dakota Bureau of Criminal Investigation. I'm stationed out here in Dickinson and have the privilege of running our Southwest Narcotics Task Force. Kind of what that is it's a collective group of law enforcement agencies and officers from different agencies, including the city of Dickinson. The city of Dickinson makes up a pretty decent portion of our task force, including 2 task force officers and our intel analyst. Outside of that, the city's also supported us in the past. Let's see here. Current Chief Ciani serves as our task force board chairman, and former Chief Dossinger also held that position when he was the police chief, and that kind of supervises our board, and they approve all our staffing and financial stuff. Additionally, the city of Dickinson also hosts all of our grants and helps us with that process, so that's greatly appreciated. But all in all, I had given you guys a year-end summary that I try to put out, and I try to visit with each of our political subdivisions that are part of our task force just to kind of build that transparency. A lot of what we do is kind of behind the scenes, so I want to make sure that we're relaying accurately what we're up to. But all in all, in 2022, our group worked 122 cases in our area. That was a little bit down from 2021, where we had 185, and the reason for that was just kind of staffing. We've been kind of turning around on staff, but we're coming into this year now. We'll be fully staffed for the first time in quite a while. One of the big things that we do is community presentations. That one of the ones that I like to do and that we do every year is for the Dickinson Area Chamber of Commerce. We try to touch base with all our hotel managers and their staff and kind of let them know what drug trends we're seeing and kind of what to look out for in their professions, because they can come across some of this stuff and obviously cause some issues for them, and we've had pretty good feedback with them, and the Chamber of Commerce has been great in trying to facilitate some other meetings with local officials and whatnot. So, but all in all, the numbers that we saw, the biggest drug that we're seeing now it's still methamphetamine. We saw more than we have ever seen before last year, and this is just drugs that we seized from our community, and that was 3,185 grams of methamphetamine, and that's up from 2,596 that we seized the previous year. The big one, and the one that we see kind of overtaking methamphetamine as the biggest problem in our communities, especially here in Dickinson, is fentanyl. We continue to see more and more fentanyl coming into our area. So to kind of compare it, let's see here. This year we saw 15,590 dosage units that we seized from our community alone. That's not including the federal cases that we worked or assisted with throughout the state. That's up from 2021, which was 9,740 dosage units. So just to kind of put that in perspective, each one of those dosage units has the capacity to kill an individual. So it's a huge, huge issue in our area that continues to grow. Other than that, we continue to see a increasing amount of marijuana, especially as the states around us continue to legalize it recreationally. The marijuana that we seized, none of those seizures were marijuana that was prescribed in North Dakota under the medical program. It was all illicit marijuana trafficked into our area. And in all those instances, it was not seized as marijuana alone. It all included other drugs or violent offenses when we seized that. But total, we seized 26,038 grams of that last year. And that's up from 6,770 in 2021. Another one of the big ones that we see is the overdoses. So in 2022, we saw 29 overdoses that required ambulance transport and hospitalization in our area, with 4 of those being fatal. And that's kind of in line with what we saw in 2021. We also had 4 fatal overdoses and 18 hospitalizations in 2021. But overall, I just wanted to touch base with you, answer any questions that you have for me or for our group. I wanted to thank you guys for your support and all that you do for us. And yeah, any questions that you have.
Thank you. Any questions for Chris on last year's report?
Mr. President,
Commissioner Bear?
what age range are we seeing with the fentanyl and methamphetamines? What age do we?
I'd like to.
Which is higher? I mean,
Right. I'd like to say it was just adults, but with especially the overdoses, we've seen them as low as 14. We've seen them as high, I would say, in the early 60s is the highest that we've seen.
So are we seeing this like starting in the elementary schools, junior school? I mean, where are we seeing this in schools, college?
In the schools, we have a pretty proactive education program, and the police department's done a great job at that. It's usually some of our smaller schools where we have that issue reaching because they don't have the SROs and those resources in place. But our schools are we're not seeing as much of it there, and I think that is a credit to those programs and those officers in the schools. But where we are seeing a lot of it is post-surgical recovery, and then people that are taking legitimate pills and then get cut off of those, and then they get put on, or then they have to seek out the pain control somewhere else. And it's a kind of a big gap in the healthcare system with that pain management. I know one of the other things I do is I work prescription fraud cases, and a lot of what we see is doctor shopping in that. And we see doctors that they don't want to lose their license by overprescribing things, and they don't want to underprescribe, so they get kind of caught in that middle ground. But all in all, that's where we see most of it start, is someone that is on a legitimate prescription that goes off of it and then tries to find it somewhere else.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? All right, thank you so much for this report. We will move into the public comments, not on the agenda. And so if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to come forward, has anything they wish the commission to address that was not on the agenda this evening, please come forward, state your name, and let the commission know your concerns. If you're watching online, 701-456-7006. So anyone from the public has any comments on items not on the agenda? You may also, if you wish, come forward and address items on the agenda if you are concerned. Anyone from the public? Anyone from the public have any comments on items not on the agenda? Seeing no one has any comments on items not on the agenda, I will close the public hearing. We'll go back to our regular agenda. And the next item up will be handled by Deputy City Administrator Carlson, and this is the official newspaper of the City of Dickinson, if I'm correct on the agenda.
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. Under North Dakota Century Code 40-01-09, it states that the official, the governing board body of the municipality annually by resolution at its first meeting in May shall designate a newspaper published in the municipality, or if there's one published, then it shall designate a newspaper which is circulated in the municipality as the official newspaper. Therefore, the City of Dickinson hereby designates the Dickinson Press as its official newspaper according to the resolution here, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlson. This should be Resolution 08-2023, 08-2023. Any questions, Commissioners, on this resolution?
I guess I'm just I'm unclear on why we have to do this if the electors selected the county newspaper. Just reading through this, it kind of seems like it would default to be the Dickinson Press because that's the county paper. So I'm just wondering why we have to.
Actually, when I called, Commissioner Oderman, when I called on this to make sure that, because we only have one newspaper in here, it states that all governing bodies, whether you're a county, a city, a small town within our county or anything, you all should have a resolution that designates it, unless it is a vote on a ballot of 60% that says we don't want to be able to publish in the paper. And so that's why, and this is new from last legislation and stuff, so this, not this one, but this has to be done, and I almost miss it every time.
Yeah.
Because I just forget about it.
Okay, any other questions for Mrs. Carlson on Resolution 08-2023?
I
Not-
would move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman,
Second?
second by Commissioner Bear. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. We have a report by City Administrator Dossinger on the work session.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the commission. We do have a work session scheduled that start at 9 a.m. on Monday, May 15th. Topics at this time in the work session include the alcohol code amendments for Legacy Square, library expansion, stormwater fees and detention ponds, cemetery and mausoleum fee code changes. There has been some mixed feedback about proceeding forward with work sessions in the future. I guess I would like to hear some feedback and comments from commissioners if they would like to have work sessions in the future or not, or what the commissioners' wishes are proceeding forward with future scheduling of work sessions. So looking for some feedback and comments and direction from the commissioners.
Commission?
Mr. President.
Mr. Oderman?
I appreciate the work sessions, just because I think it allows us to have kind of longer form discussions about things that, and ask clarifying questions of city staff in a way that just allows those, and I mean, they're open to the public, so there's nothing that precludes the public from coming and watching and things like that. But I think when we get to these regular meetings like this, to be respectful of not only city staff's time, but citizens' times that come and attend these meetings. For example, I mean, we've got these engineers that come and report out on the different things that are pertinent to them. And that's typically at the end of the meeting. And if we included all the discussion that we have at the work sessions, I mean, we're looking at maybe like 9, 10 o'clock at night that we'll be here till. And they have families, we have families. I think just to be respectful to everybody that attends the regular meetings, the work sessions are definitely a larger time commitment for us as city commissioners, but that's kind of what we signed up for. And yeah, I mean, I that would be my kind of list of pros in terms of work sessions. Obviously I typically have to take PTO on those days, but like, that's okay and that's fine. Because I do think that we have kind of deeper conversations. We can ask some clarifying questions that at a regular meeting would potentially make us look dumber than I think we would hope to look. But it gives us an opportunity to ask those questions to city staff that maybe would be a waste of time at a regular meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Urban. Anyone else?
Mr. President,
Commissioner Bear?
I agree with what Commissioner Oderman said. I like the work sessions myself. It gives me more opportunity to ask more questions in maybe a longer time span, and we can get into a deeper discussion compared to what we can during a commission meeting here. And by doing that, it gives me an opportunity to learn more. So yeah, I actually look forward to the work sessions. So I don't mind taking the time off and being here. As John said, it's kind of part of the job I took an oath to take on, so I don't have a problem. I like to see them keep going.
My past hesitations have been made pretty abundantly clear on these things. If they do not turn into commission meetings before the commission meeting, where they're every 2 weeks and they're 4 hours long, and we basically talk about something and get a general feeling from the commission that we're going to support it, which is basically approving it in a non-commission meeting, then I'm okay with it. But to me, they were just another commission meeting where you guys shot ideas and then you wanted a consensus from us if you should bring it forward for approval. Well, once you have us already saying that it's approved, it's pretty much there's not much left to discuss.
Yeah,
At the commission meeting.
I would agree with
If
that.
it's informational only, fine. I think that's fine. Otherwise, I think it should be on the camera. So,
And I would echo Commissioner Frederick. I've said in the past, I don't want to have another commission meeting. I want the public to be able to feel that everything that we're doing is open to them, and sometimes the work sessions are not necessarily, they have jobs too, so they're not, you're going to take PTO and Dr.
Yeah.
Bear's going to close down
Yeah.
his work, and Jason's going to, step away from work, and I won't have to be able to fish that morning, but no, it's, joking aside, it's, as long as it's informational and we're what you gentlemen have said is, we can dive a little bit deeper into like code issues or fee structures, and that way we're better informed going forward. I think this, like the library expansion, is a worthy thing to sit in and delve into and see what their actual plans are now that they have a change in leadership there. So that will be helpful. The alcohol bid code, that for the Legacy Square. Commissioner Oderman, you're going to be running that one as vice president, because I will still be coming
great.
back from
Yeah.
Tennessee, so better get that PTO approved.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, as long as we're doing it in this format, opposed to what we had been doing in the past, I am fine with it. So, and to the public, you are welcome to come and sit in and listen, and and partake in the discussion just like you partake here. So I said going forward, as long as we stick to this format, I think we'll be okay.
Thank you, Mr. President, Commissioners, for your feedback.
And I think there should be kind of a consideration of, let's make sure that like we need to have the work session, because like what Commissioner Friedrich said, we don't need to be doing this every 2 weeks or even every month. Like let's make sure that like we're scheduling work sessions or mini retreats or whatever, that are actually like useful and are covering topics that need to have like those longer form conversations. So
Yeah, the intent is not to have frequent work sessions. I think
Yeah.
everybody's time is valuable. And especially getting into the budget season, we will all be very busy in meeting on a regular basis. So that's not the intent.
thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move into public safety, and we have this month, we have the monthly fire report by Fire Chief Presnell.
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. I'm before you this evening to present the April Fire Department report. Just a reminder of the services we do provide. We responded to 130 calls for service for the month of April. That does put us at about 620. And I know that 55% looks high, but once we get a little farther along, when we start running more medical calls, that'll kind of drop down. But from compared to where we were last year, with our lower numbers, it does seem a little high. Here's a breakdown of the calls by month. As you can see, we're actually going down. That's our trend this year so far. Really taking a look at the type of calls we're responding to and cleaning that up a little bit, as well as working with some of the apartment complexes where we're having some of these false calls and helping them work through that so we're not responding all the time to every time their fire alarm goes off. Here's a breakdown of our call types. EMS was our highest, and that was at 78%. And then 6% for our good intent calls, 6% for our false alarm, false calls, and then they're all about equal beyond that. We had no fires for the month of April. It was a pretty quiet month in terms of fires. Calls by station. Station 1 did respond to 60% of the overall calls. That is our southern station. Here's our heat map of where calls are happening. Where you see the red, there's multiple calls happening in that area, and they usually do go around a lot of these apartment complexes and other facilities where there's a high density living in that area. Response times. Station 1, we were able to actually bring down our response time. We shaved about a minute off, with the road conditions improving, not having snow on the ground. And then Station 2, or the north station, we actually saved about 30 seconds off of our response times. So we're constantly trying to improve those response times to get there a little quicker but safely. Calls by day of the week. Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday were where the majority of our calls did happen, and the rest was spread out across the rest of the week. From about 3 o'clock to, or from about 1 o'clock to about 3 o'clock were our busiest times of the day, where we did see most of our call volume. Training hours, we completed 1,236 training hours for the month of April. We're sitting pretty good. We're a little farther ahead of where we should be, but everything's looking pretty good. Fire prevention, we had 93 routine inspections and then 127 other prevention activities, whether that was phone calls or just giving station tours or other presentations. And then we did issue 2 certificates of occupancy. And then with that, I would gladly answer any questions that you have.
Just a quick observation. Your last few slides didn't sync with your presentation. Not what we got anyway.
You actually had 4 occupancy certificates.
So what actually happens, because usually when I have to have my PowerPoint submitted, it's not the end of the month yet. Oh. So I have to update it like first thing when the first hits. So I do apologize for that, but to get it in to read on time, I sometimes do have to make corrections because it doesn't always cover the entire month. And I want to provide you with the most accurate information possible.
We know how she cracks the whip on you guys, so.
Agreed.
so.
Mr. President, I think I know who's buying donuts for tomorrow's executive team meeting.
I can take care of that.
All right. Any other questions or comments for Chief Presnell? All right.
Thanks,
And
Chief.
thank you for all the help on the funeral procession the other day, the fire department, and it was it was a very I would say touching day. I mean, and how the community came together. It was pretty amazing, and you know how the county and the Highway Patrol stepped up to help out the PD and what you guys all did too. So thank you so much, and to all the public safety individuals. It was I think the family greatly appreciated all your work on that. So
Thank you.
okay, we'll move into community development, and the first item up we have the Sundance Cove SID, and this will be handled by Engineering and Community Development Director Skulzczyk.
Good evening, Mr. President and Commissioners. So the Sundance Cove's Lighting Special Improvement District, this is something that we've presented earlier, done some couple different iterations, and ultimately gaining feedback and whatnot based on those meetings and whatnot. So come to you with this updated special improvement district for Sundance Coves. In this specific engineering report that was attached to your packet, similar to what was previously presented, there was for the individual condos associated with this, there was $1,566.27 that was allocated to each individual condo, which is to be paid by the Villas at Sundance Coves LLC, which is the developer. And then we ultimately use that same dollar amount allocated out to the individual lot owners, $1,566.27. So that ultimately then went out to the individual lots, the individual tracks that were associated with the stormwater detention areas. We did not allocate costs to those. So in that case, the total estimate was $516,290 for the lighting. Of that, $150,000.41 was associated with the developer and to be paid by the developer. And then using the $1,566.27 across 87 individual single-family properties, that comes up to $136,265.49. The remainder of that overall total, which is $230,000 and $24.51, that would ultimately be the city portion that's to be paid for by the city of Dickinson. And I guess any other questions you may have, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, engineering staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Skulzczyk. Any questions for city engineer or staff on this final agreement?
Mr. President,
Commissioner Orman?
we might not have these numbers finalized or anything like that, but do we have like what it's gonna cost, like the average property owner out there?
The individual, the property owners will pay the $1,500, excuse me, $1,566.27.
Okay, and that's half, like we've talked about in the past.
I think it's more.
Just
Yeah, it's roughly, yeah.
very, very close, but
Okay.
yeah. And the
I think we discussed charging them the same as what we were charging the condo units, which
And-
seemed like the most equitable and fair way, so.
And we are going to make sure that the present owner of the condos pays us before it's not something that is tacked on to as something that, as they sell these units off.
As per the development agreement that was signed and executed back in September of 2022, that's actually the way that the costs are to be paid, is as the individual condo units are sold, then the payment will be received
From
for
the
that-
seller, from the seller, okay.
So. Yeah, I did research that to make sure we did or did not receive payment. We did not, in fact, and that was then because of the details in the development agreement that was approved in September of 2022.
So how are we gonna monitor that? Are we gonna go to every closing for 87 units and make sure we get our check, or?
Commissioner Frederick, I think the reality of that is that Sundance Coves has a contractual obligation to the city to ensure that that is obviously occurring. Obviously, with any deed transfers or assessments in property, that stuff is going to come in front of the tax assessor's office on a change. So we will be able to cross-reference that, and if there's any situation where we find out that money hasn't been paid, then we'll be knocking on Sundance Cove's door, so.
So, Mrs. Wanko, we had a signed contract with them before, though. And now property owners are paying for lighting because we didn't enforce that contract.
Commissioner Oderman, the concern with that contract, the way it was drafted with the development agreement, it is typically developers put bonds in place, and unfortunately, the way that that agreement was worded, there was no bond applied to this particular aspect of the project. So whatever was discussed in 2012 or 13 when that agreement was drafted, it was drafted in such a way that there was no bond for the city to seek to enforce. The city has since changed its practices quite immensely to protect the city, requiring developers to put up bonds to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So unfortunately, lesson learned, and the city has been made aware of it, and obviously we'll use this moving forward as what not to do.
So what do we have in place to be able to enforce what Commissioner Friedrich is talking about?
That would be a situation where we could potentially have to file suit or something of that nature, because we do have a contractual obligation that requires that to be paid. In that other particular situation, there wasn't a contract provision that required any sort of financial reimbursement for that. So uniquely the way it was drafted, but hindsight being 2020, like I said, there's nothing we can do about it now, but the agreement is in place moving forward, and like I said, city has learned from past practices that we require bonds when we don't have this issue moving forward.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Maybe this is for Mrs. Carlson potentially. So how can people finance this assessment? Like 5 years, 10 years? What's the maximum? What's the minimum?
Go ahead.
So there was some discussion back and forth on what we could or should allow. My recommendation would be 10 years, just for the simple fact that that gives people, if in fact they're in a paycheck to paycheck type of scenario, that extends that overall dollar amount out further. If they intend to or have the means to pay it quicker in some way, shape, or form, or upfront, then they just don't pay that interest.
Okay. And then what's our quote unquote administrative fee? That the percentage that we charge?
The interest.
The interest rate had to have gone up with the federal funds rate going up, right?
Right, we are we 1.5? Yeah. 3.25.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? This is Resolution 09, 2023. If there are no more questions or comments, I look for a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Alderman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Up next, we have the 2023 sidewalk program.
Good evening, Mr. President and Commissioners. The 2023 Sidewalk Improvement District Resolution. So this is something that's been an annual program for some years now. And so in this case, this resolution is to create a sidewalk improvement district for the city of Dickinson, authorizing the improvements and then ultimately those assessments. This is ultimately the mechanism that will allow citizens to make improvements to sidewalks, curb, gutter, and driveways, which are in the street right-of-way only. And this is a volunteer program. It allows assessments to be part of the process, to put the costs against, as a special assessment against their improved parcel upon compliance of the requirements of the city of Dickinson. And this would create the legal authority for the city of Dickinson to assess the costs for those sidewalks, curb and gutters, or other improvements to the property as per Century Code and City of Dickinson Municipal Code. And this does, in fact, encompass the entirety of the City of Dickinson corporate limits. And then with this approval and authorization, we look to advertise for bids and get this project moving forward. So any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Mrs. Skolacek.
I know it's been a good program in the past, excuse me.
Yeah.
How
I think
many-
we're pretty caught up. I mean, we're getting there.
Was there a lot of usage in the program last year? Does anybody know?
Roughly about 45,000, somewhere right around that number. Don't quote me on it exactly, but pretty close. Because of that, in conversations with staff members, we discussed making the total budget in this year for $100,000, and that was within the limits of what was approved for the annual budget. So.
I just have an observation, Mrs. Winko. Resolution number on here is a little different. We got 2023-07-1. Okay, so it should be 10-2023 then, right? Okay. So,
In the case of utilization, it's something we want to be a little bit more proactive in trying to communicate as far as the benefit and the value to the citizens, so.
Yeah, there's probably a little education out there again about the program. You know, some people probably just forgot about it, or. But it's been a good program over the years. We've got a lot of sidewalk put in over the years around town. So.
like I said, I think they're kind of getting caught up. A lot of the empty lots are getting filled in, and
Yeah.
so. Okay, resolution 10-2023. Any further questions or comments?
Mr. President, I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick,
Second.
second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick.
Aye.
Mr. Oderman.
Aye.
Dr. Bear.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Next up, we have Highlands Engineering Task Order, and this is for 15th Street West.
Again, Commissioners, this is a task order for 15th Street West. This project is a extension of 15th Street West, and this was part of the district development. This roadway extension was approved by the City Commission on February 7th, 2023, and the construction was awarded to Corova Construction for $682,992.00. Attached that in as one of the attachments for the agenda. And in the development agreement, which was also attached in your agenda, states, if you see section 2.I, that outlines that the City of Dickinson's financial obligations related to 15th Street West extension is not to exceed $450,000, and that includes all costs associated with the construction and engineering related to the project. So this project is planned to be completed during the 2023 construction season. And city engineering staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Skolzczyk. This is task order 231016-01. Any questions for staff on this task order? I know they're busy at it right now. We drove by a couple times and looks like they're putting the storm. Okay. Yeah. So I think that a lot of those projects over there will move pretty quick. And we just gotta keep working on the other landowners adjacent to it to hopefully we can complete this roadway. It would be a nice connector. So, any other questions or comments on this task order?
Mr. President, move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We also have a KLJ task order for the 2023 road maintenance.
Again, good evening, Commissioners. So with this, the KLJ task order amendment, it's amendment number 2, and this is associated with the, this is actually the amendment for the 2022 mill and overlay project, not the 2023 project. In this case, this is intended to extend the construction engineering services for the project that was delayed in the 2022 construction season. And that project ultimately ended construction at the time around October 31st, 2022. And right now we're just waiting to get started again. The obligation for them to start back up is when load restrictions are lifted, but there's some minor amounts of activities taking place that don't constitute heavy construction traffic. As I had mentioned before, this project is about 70% complete. We've got some good schedule from the contractor, and their commitment to stay on the project, dedicate a full crew, and quickly move through the remainder of the scope of work and complete the project. So this is a hourly rate not to exceed $89,800, and engineering staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Skolzczyk. Any questions, Commissioners? I guess I have one. So we're paying for additional engineering services on something that wasn't completed last year. Did we get a rebate from last year for non-completed engineering services?
There was no rebate. There was a lot of back and forth and kind of handling the circumstances related to the project, not only from the public standpoint, but also then communication with the contractor as they demobilized, and there was some communication that they were working to come back and finish their work, and that ultimately never happened. We do have the liquidated damages from the contractor, and which ultimately then we plan to receive, and we plan to move as diligently as possible with this and minimize our spend on the project.
Do we know what those damages are?
I don't have that number specifically in front of me, but it's based on, it's a daily rate, so that's something I can report out next month. Once we get back up and running and load restrictions, I assume will be lifted in the coming weeks, and we'll have an idea of schedule and all those kind of things.
So is this the same contractor gonna do the work now this year?
No, Northern Improvements was the contractor for the 2022 project, and Construction Specialties Incorporated is doing the 2023 project.
I guess I struggle with the same thing that Mr. Decker does. They're managing the project for us. The contractor that's doing the work walks off. And so the project was not, I would say, appropriately managed. And then we pay additional funds to them to continue to manage a project that wasn't completed.
In this case, I know there was a significant number of challenges associated with the contractor's performance, not only on a day-to-day basis of what they were ultimately delivering, kind of lack of organization, lack of efficiencies, and all those kind of things. And ultimately, that just added extra time, and let alone managing the contract, wondering, you know, okay, are they actually coming back? You know, how is this happening, as far as they had kind of a limited workforce and some of those kind of things, so.
So, I thought they told us last year they were coming back to finish.
They are, yes, but that was last fall. That was what I was communicating. There was communication that they were potentially gonna come back last fall and get things done, and then they ended up not doing that, so.
Okay, so how have we paid them to this point? I mean,
We've only paid them for their work completed. They were on just a unit rate contract, so what work they completed, they've been paid for.
so how are we gonna recoup our liquidated damages? We're gonna have to sue them? I doubt they're gonna be just willing to give them up.
So we have the retainage, and then they have their bond, so we have some things leverage to hold over them, so.
James, maybe you can explain this a little bit.
Yes, of course. Thank you, President and Commissioners, and good evening. Just a few things to add to this discussion. And your questions are fair. They're good questions. And just a few things to add. There were a couple items that were considered out of scope from our first contract. There were a number of change orders to the project. There are actually five change orders, some extra pavement and everything. But that added quite a bit of work on our end, preparing these change orders and processing them through, and bringing in additional help for inspections on field. That's usually, these types of change orders are just absorbed in our cost for these construction projects. But you know, with the construction schedule going over, and it just happened that these change orders couldn't be absorbed in our first contract. So that's part of the costs that are coming from this second amendment. So hopefully that sort of explains some of it. And some other out of scope work I could mention is this winter shutdown process that usually isn't built into these contracts. Usually these finish up in a season, and we don't anticipate all the work for a winter shutdown. But you know, there was a number of Saturday works that we don't plan for our RPRs and those sorts of things. So.
Okay. So when we've begun the process to go after their bond, their performance bond, since they didn't finish, or are they going to argue that they finished up to a point?
So we had certain criteria that they needed to complete from a traffic safety and a pedestrian safety standpoint and those kind of things. They completed that work last fall, and then the list of the remaining scope of work for this year to be completed and all those kind of things. They're like I say, they provided a schedule of what they intend to complete and how fast they intend to complete it, and ultimately then it's, you know, acknowledging the liquidated damages and executing on those, and then reducing their overall payment on the project based on that is the kind of the contractual steps to managing the contractor.
But what I'm understanding is we paid them for the work they did.
The work that they did complete last year,
They're
yes.
paid up. So
Yep.
they got their money for the work. So now we have to go back to them and say, well, you didn't come back, so now we want our damages. So I doubt they're just gonna give it to us. It's gonna end up in arbitration or court or something.
Usually those liquidated damages are factored out of future pay requests from the.
Yeah, well, they're not gonna get a future pay request though.
There's more work to be completed on the.
Well, they're not doing it though. Are they?
They will be.
They will be working on it, and we've had the kind of the project kickoff meeting. They're committed.
So Northern's coming back to finish?
Yep.
Okay, then I'm totally off my, sorry, I missed that. I thought they were not coming back.
I was under the understanding somebody else was completing it.
Me too.
No, this is the 2022 project. 2023 project is a whole different project with the, that's Construction Specialties Incorporated. They're performing a totally different project, totally different scope of work. Northern Improvements is still managing and gonna come back and deliver on this project according to their contract. We've had a host of different pretty lengthy conversations over the winter months. I've personally been in significant contact with Steve McCormick himself, because I wanted to hear it from him, his commitment. And so they're committed to delivering. I can assure you that one individual false step on their part, as far as if they try to pull crews or even limit manpower associated with a crew, I will be first, and I made this abundantly clear the other day to Mr. Kajowski, that I need to know if anything happens, if they're pulling crews or pulling personnel from a crew. I will be first in contact with Lynn McChesney, who is their regional manager, and then I will be immediately following up with a conversation with Mr. Steve McCormick, because that's unacceptable. And they said, and they promised me in my eyes, they looked at me and said they will get this done. And so I need that to happen.
Okay, I guess we misunderstood
Yeah,
that they weren't
I was
finishing
under
the
the
project.
understanding we had a different contractor
Right.
finishing it. so-
No, I apologize for the misunderstanding
No.
there, but no, there's definitely frustration on our part with their lack of performance last year. They've actually been apologetic, which has been appreciated, but I think we're on a better path forward for getting this project done.
Okay. So this is task order 21004-01576. Alpha, if I'm correct. So, any further questions for staff or Mr.
So
Kiedorowski?
some of these liquidated damages should offset this extra engineering?
Correct. Yeah, this contract has, I believe it's $2,300 per day, per calendar day, so, every calendar day.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Having worked through all that, I'd move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Kiedorowski.
Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Mr. Frederick,
Aye.
Dr. Bear,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Motion carries. And the last thing in community development, we have the monthly report.
Thank you, Mr. President, Commissioners. So the engineering community development team continue to be quite busy overall, and with a host of different things, a lot of development activity is picking up since the weather's finally getting nice. And also we're working diligently on filling the open positions or vacant positions within the team. So moving on to building and code. So I will caveat, this is specific to, I believe, Wednesday of last week, data from Wednesday of last week, not necessarily through the end of the month. It was just to get the data in and the presentation together, but absolutely since even Wednesday, we've had a number of additional building permits come in. So it's been a heavy load coming in, very, very significant number and a variety of different types of permits coming in. So I think the load right now, we're seeing just a significant number of additional permits beyond maybe what we saw last year, as well as dollars, and maybe that'll start kind of leveling off as the year goes on, but ultimately there seems to be a lot of activity and a lot of optimism, so we'll see as the year progresses. Specific to building and code from a staff standpoint, this morning we had an interview for the Building Inspector 2 position, and working on that to move forward with that position. The Building Inspector 1 position is posted and or will be posted in the coming day or two, and then there is a code enforcement position open still, so looking to fill that. Our planning and zoning, we had 5 new pre-application meetings last month, and we did in fact offer a planner, one of the applicants. We ended up having 9 interviews, which was a pretty significant number, quite a few very qualified people out of 12 or 13 total applicants. Right now, tentative start date is for early June, and with collaboration with the HR team, we do plan to reach out to this gentleman. He's actually relocating from Norway. He's been there for a few years now, and so he's originally from Texas, but has been in Norway, did his master's degree there, and has been there for a little while. So anyways, just want to kind of talk through with him how the relocation is looking, if there's any other needs, anything else we can help him with, and those kind of things. And then based on the last P&Z meeting, there was a request to start doing some research and looking into barndominiums, something that we've had quite a bit of interest in, and but right now we don't have any real criteria or anything to allow for this, so it always puts us in a little bit of a gray area. So we're trying to see what we can do different, or what other communities have done, how they handle it different from the ETZ to say in town, and vice versa, things like that. So engineering, we have a number of projects that we're working on. The drainage ditch erosion repair, that's the project just near the Holiday gas station, just south of Museum Drive and east of Highway 22. That officially started on April 24th. Contractor is actually anticipated to complete the work either tomorrow or Thursday, depending upon a few different material availability and a couple other things. Been out on site a number of times, and that project's really coming along well. The Legacy Square, been supporting City Administrator Dossinger on both technical and non-technical and aspects of the project, and continue to make progress. There's a pretty significant number of personnel and quite a bit of resources out working on that project right now, so very excited to see the progress. Water main lead service line replacement project, that project's been awarded, and we'll be looking for a start date, most likely early June timeframe. 2023 road maintenance project, that's been awarded, similar tentative start date on that. Looking forward to that to get started. Dickinson South Cemetery, and I'll lump that one in with the Legacy Square parking lot. So those projects actually just as of yesterday, end of business yesterday, those just both went out to bid at the same time. They're 2 separate projects, but we're ultimately bidding them simultaneously, and we actually have the same bid opening times, same pre-bid conferences, those kind of things. There's a possibility we might have some economy of scale, hoping to see some benefit out of that, and a little bit, bundling the 2 together might get a few more bidders possibly. And then the North Industry Water and Sewer Project, that's been awarded, looking for that contractor to get everything moving forward and get started on that. Specific to North Industries, we did have we had a host of different publications or communications go out to those property owners looking for feedback on what they're looking for the streets and stormwater improvements. That concluded April 28th. We had well over 50% say that they were not interested in being assessed at the level in which we were looking at. So I think right now our best path forward is to recommunicate, acknowledge the situation as far as that was the desire based on the polling or the feedback that was provided, and then look at an alternative option that's of lesser cost and but I think ultimately, once we try to salvage the gravel-based material that's left on that roadway, there's ultimately not that much there to salvage, and so that's going to be a concern for future years, and so some form of street improvements is necessary and of value, I believe. This was from the drainage ditch erosion repairs. So we did have the vibration monitoring. We had the seismograph up near the parking lot for the Holiday gas station. This was just a test every morning. They were running a test just to validate that the system was still working and those kind of things. But it was just good information, good feedback. We did not actually set off the device during operations, only during the tests. So, so it was good risk mitigation for the project to make sure that we were all aware of what vibration was occurring on the project. Other projects that we're working to get up and running right now, the Sim Street reconstruction project, the 2024 road maintenance projects, we're actually scheduled in the near term here to have a scoping meeting. Then the 2024 water main and lead service line project, looking to schedule a scoping meeting for that as well, start getting that all moving forward. Hopes there would be we'd get projects out to bid a little bit earlier, ideally get better pricing, more ultimate contractors associated with that. Geographical information system, we had some good realized operational efficiencies and then ultimately the public benefits, people that can see all the information that's available to them and whatnot. But throughout the winter months, so our engineering technician was working on entering, they were basically hand sketch drawings of water and sewer services and those kind of things, mainly sewer services, but ultimately in the last couple weeks, one of the calls that came in was specific to one of the areas he had been working on. Instead of having to pull a bunch of records and do those kind of things, he was able to just utilize the mapping information, go out and save all that time. So significant value from our GIS and not only for us operationally, but also for the public. With that, I take any questions.
Thank you, Josh. Any questions for engineering or city staff on their activity?
Mr. President,
Commissioner Bear?
Josh, I have a question regarding cemeteries. In talking, it's been brought to my attention that on the St. Joe Cemetery, it seems like there are a few plots that are still available in that cemetery. However, there's a drainage problem in that particular area. Is there any way that the city could do something to resolve that problem so that they would be more desirable, I mean, and be able to be utilized?
No guarantees without looking at the situation, but I'll definitely, this is the first I've been made aware of that, so I can reach out to Public Works Manager and over that.
And I've been meeting to meet with you, so I just wanted to throw that out there so that I can meet with you on that. But I just wondering if there's anything we could do to improve that.
Yeah, we can certainly look into that situation.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you for the report. And that should do it for the regular agenda this evening. We'll move down to, there's nothing from Public Works. And so, commissioners, this is your time. Anything on your minds before we adjourn?
Just one thing, Muni code in the website, how's that coming along? Anybody have an update on that?
I see that IT Director Aaron Meyer is not in here, yes, but we have a meeting on a regular basis that is moving forward. And I believe Ms. Binstock met with Aaron Meyer and his team today. They were walking her through some of the processes and inputting information, so that is moving forward.
Okay.
And Mr. Meyer has been meeting with several of the department heads regarding their individual websites as well, moving that forward. So we are very close to presenting a mock-up of our website.
Great, okay.
Regarding that, would that be something that would be brought up at a workshop so that we could go through that in more detail before it's released?
If that is available by our scheduled work session, I certainly could ask us to check to make sure we can present that, if that is available.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else, commissioners? Look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.